Welcome everyone. This is Brother Doug of the Assembly, the Awakened by Yahuah Assembly, and I'm with my sister Shoshana, my brother Bobby, my sister Kristen, and our sister Sally. And we are going to be doing a study called "Is the Law of Yahuah Bondage?" So we are going to be starting off pretty much from the foundation of Scripture. We're going to be starting off from the book of Genesis in the first chapter. So we are going to be going to Genesis chapter 1, verses 24 to 25. And see here, let me put my share screen up for everyone. And here we go. All right. So Genesis 1, 24 to 25 says, "And Elohim said, Let the earth bring forth the living being according to its kind, livestock, and creeping creatures, and beasts of the earth according to its kind. And it came to be so. And Elohim made the beasts of the earth according to its kind, livestock according to its kind, and all the creeping on the earth according to its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good." And this is obviously before Yahuah created Adam and Eve. This is all the beasts and living creatures that were made before mankind. So this is basically saying that Yahuah created every creature according to its kind, according to its seed. And so this is a natural law of Yahuah. Now, to me, this doesn't sound like a burden. This sounds like common sense. This is, for our own benefit. And subject kind of related to this is what happens when man mixes up kinds, and what is the ramification of breaking this law of Yahuah, of the law of nature, and that every creature is supposed to be created according to its kind and reproduce according to its kind. Now, if you go to Genesis 6:4, says, "The giants were on the earth in those days, and also afterward when the sons of Elohim came into the daughters of men, they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men, or the heroes of old, the men of renown." So right here you see the ramifications of mixing kinds and breaking one of Yahuah's laws. Okay? You break his law, his natural law of everything has its own kind, its own seed. And when you mix seeds, you mix DNA, and you mix two kinds together, you get an abomination. You get these Titan-like giants who are known in the Hebrew as Nephilim, meaning the fallen ones, the children of the fallen. And so, because they broke Yahuah's law of nature, this was a ramification. Now you have bloodthirsty giants on the earth. And this was probably one of the main causes for the flood, for anyone that doesn't know that. Genesis 6:4 gives you the foundation on why this flood had to happen, basically. And so it wasn't just lawlessness in general, even though there was lawlessness and people were evil, their thoughts were evil, but it was the mixing of two kinds together. Now, we're not going to stay on that too long because that's not really the topic of this study today, but just to give you an idea that this itself is a law of Yahuah, not to mix kinds together. So I just kind of wanted to build a foundation on that even something as simple as the law of nature is part of Yahuah's law. So, okay, so now we're going to jump forward to Genesis chapter 2, verse 2. And it says here in Genesis chapter 2, verse 2, "And in the seventh day, Yahuah, or Elohim, completed his work which he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all his work which he had made." Now, so the Sabbath's even established as Yahuah's day of rest, and it's actually a day that he rested after creating the earth in 6 days. So So even with Yahuah, he didn't believe that this was something burdensome. He's resting from all the work he did in the first 6 days of the week. So Yahuah knows we need rest. That's the basis of this. And you guys should be kind of asking yourselves, is resting a burden? And then now we're going to jump further down in this chapter. We're going to stay in chapter 2, and we're going to go to verse 17. And this is the very first commandment Yahuah actually put to mankind, to Adam and Eve. But do not eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall certainly die. So, Yahuah is just warning them out of love. If you eat of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, you're going to die. Now, unfortunately, as you read further on, you read the next chapter. If you go to Genesis 3, which we'll go there really quick. In verse 4, the enemy, the adversary, Nahash, or traditionally translated in your English Bibles as the serpent, said to the woman, "You shall certainly not die." So here's the first lie ever said by Satan. And so he furthers on saying that you shall be like Yahuah, you shall be mighty ones knowing good and evil. So those are the first two lies of the serpent, which led to Adam and Eve falling, and mankind in general falling, and sin becoming our genetic defect. So not to go too much into that, but as you can see, the serpent lied to them, and they did die. Adam, as you read further on in Genesis, we don't have time to really go through all that of when Adam died, but he died when he was about 900 and something years old. So he did physically die, even after the fact he ate the fruit of the knowledge, the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. So Yahuah was not lying to him; the serpent lied. So just to kind of explain that. Now we're going to go to in order here. So now we're going to go to Genesis 7 verse 2. This is another commandment early in Genesis, and it says, and he's saying this to Noah right after the flood. No. This is actually before the flood. My bad about that. Of all the clean, this is Genesis chapter 7, verse 2. Of all the clean beasts, take you 7 pairs, and the male and his female, and of the beasts that are unclean, 2 a male and his female. So you're supposed to take 7 pairs of the clean and only 1 pair of the unclean. So even back in Genesis, there was a law of the clean and unclean, just for people that think that that was just created with the law of Moses, and that also known as the law of Yahuah, and that it was like a new commandment after Sinai. This is actually right in the book of Genesis. There's an establishing of what are clean animals, what are unclean animals. So I just wanted to show that. To me, does this sound like a burden to you? I don't see that as a burden. All he's doing is he's separating 2 types of animals on an ark. I don't see that as burdensome. And now let's see, we're going to go forward here, and we are finally going to get into the foundation here in Exodus 20, which is really where I wanted to start out with. And we're going to pay very close attention to verse 2 in Genesis 20, which literally says, "I am Yahuah your Elohim, which have brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage." So that's the question we're going to be really presenting to you guys, the viewers and listeners. Did Yahuah take Yashrael, modern English called Israel, the people of Yahuah, did he take his people out of slavery and bondage to put them back into slavery and bondage? Just something you should think about.
Did you mention circumcision?
Oh, whoops, my bad about that. Let me go back to Genesis here. I forgot about the law of circumcision, actually. Thank you, Shoshana. Genesis chapter 17, verses 11 to 12. I missed that one. And it says in Genesis 17, 11 to 12, And you shall circumcise the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token, meaning outward sign of the covenant between me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every man child in your generations, he that is born in the house or bought with money, or any stranger which is not of your seed. Sounds like it's for Gentiles too. And actually, this is a good one to go to, because even modern science and modern health, doctors will even say to you that it's healthy to circumcise your male child. That if you don't circumcise your male child, that he could suffer from health problems later on in life. So to me, that doesn't sound like a burden. It sounds like Yahuah knew what he was doing and actually wanted to protect us by giving this commandment, not just as a sign, even though it was a sign between Abraham and Yahuah that his seed would be Yahuah's chosen people originally. And so that's basically what I wanted to show there. And let me go back to here. Now that we're through that, also I wanted to make a notion that you can actually, I did want to connect something here real quick, that it says for you and the stranger and the one that is not of your seed. So I wanted to make a connection, real quick connection with Genesis 17:11-12, with Exodus chapter 12, verse 49, because this is actually a huge connection here. It actually says, one law shall be to him that is homeborn, and to the stranger that sojourns among you. So I wanted to make a quick connection here that every commandment of the fathers is part of one law. He only has one law. So we cannot separate the 10 commandments from his other laws, and the law clean and unclean from other laws. They're all one law. So all of his commandments are part of one law, and that's what Exodus 12:49 says. So now I am going to go into Exodus 20, and this is the first time.
How about Exodus 15?
Okay, Exodus
37.
37. Exodus 15:37 or 27, you mean? Because there's only 27 verses here.
Okay, it's the one about circumcision, not circumcision. It's the one about the disease.
Oh, that's Numbers. We haven't gotten to that.
Numbers, yeah, Numbers. Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's all good. We haven't gotten to that one yet. We're trying to go. We're gonna try to keep it in order for them. Let's see. Okay. Exodus 20 verse 2. We're gonna start at here, and then after that we're gonna get into Numbers. We'll go to Numbers 10, then 15. Exodus 20 verse 2, we're going to start off, and this is where I start off by saying, I am Yahuah your Elohim, which have brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. So he's taking them out of bondage. You shall have no other mighty ones before me. Very first commandment. You shall not make any graven image or any likeness. So actually, let me go back to the first commandment, because we want to do these one by one. Okay, you shall have no other mighty ones before me. That doesn't really sound like bondage to me. Sounds very simple. We have one deity, one mighty one object of worship, that Yahuah, not a physical object, but Yahuah is the deity who we worship, the Elohim we worship. So to me, that doesn't sound like bondage. And then you go to verse 4, the second one says, you shall not make to you any graven image or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. So that seems like another simple commandment. Just don't make graven images. Don't make likenesses of things to worship them. That really doesn't seem that hard. Doesn't seem like a burden. And verse 5 says, you shall not bow down yourself to them, nor serve them, for I, Yahuah your Elohim, am a jealous Elohim. So he's explaining to you why he's commanding this. Because he doesn't want you worshiping any other mighty ones. Yahuah takes worship as almost pretty much like marriage. Okay? These are like marriage vows here. Okay, so he takes being our Elohim as being our spouse. Okay, he doesn't want any of us committing whoredom with other mighty ones, basically, put it in modern terms. And it says, for I, Yahuah your Elohim, am a jealous Elohim, visiting the lawlessness of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me. So he's only going to curse those that are disobedient, basically. Verse 6, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. So here's mercy. Here's what we know as favor in the New Testament being shown right here in Exodus 20, and showing mercy unto the thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. So what he's saying in verse 6 here is if you want to keep my commandments, you have a heart to keep my commandments, even if we mess up, he's showing us mercy. Then it goes to verse 7. You shall not take the name of Yahuah your Elohim in vain, for Yahuah will not hold him guiltless that takes his name in vain. And if you actually do some studying here, vain even in the modern dictionary means to bring to nothing. So let's actually pick a translation here that actually says that. It says, in ISR 2009, you will see it says in verse 7, you do not bring the name of Yahuah your Elohim to naught or nothing. For Yahuah does not leave the one unpunished who brings his name to naught or nothing. So that's pretty much self-explanatory. You destroy the name of Yahuah by substituting it, by not uttering it, by not honoring it, by making it generic, like calling him Lord, God, Adonai, Master, by not using his actual name. So that's what verse 7 is talking about. That doesn't seem like a hard commandment to keep. It doesn't seem like really a burden. Just to utter his name, just to proclaim his name doesn't seem like a hard commandment to do. Verse 8, remember the Sabbath day to set it apart. Now, this is a big one in the church. For some reason, this is where they want to stop. Or probably verse 7 and verse 8 is where they want to stop at. Even in Protestantism, they want to say, his name's not that important. And remember the Sabbath day in all Christendom, for some reason, is like where they want to throw that command out for some reason. Now, is it really hard to rest on his day, on the day of rest he prescribed, that we just read in Genesis 2:2, he rests on the seventh day, not a seventh day? So is that really that hard? I mean, I would say this is not a burden. You're resting, not doing anything, Verse 9, 6 days you labor and shall do all your work. Okay? So basically, you're only working for 6 days out of the week. The seventh day you're resting in the verse prior to this one. So he's just saying all work that you have to do during the week, get it done in the first 6 days. That doesn't even seem like that hard. I mean, it's a little difficult because we actually have to do work, but he's giving us 6 days out of the 7 days to get all work done. So, I mean, to me, that doesn't seem like that hard of a commitment. And, most people look at, they got to get work done during the week. This seems like a commandment that even non-believers, unknowingly keep because they're trying to get stuff done during the week. So, I mean, but they don't get it done in only 6 days. So, let's see, verse 10, but the seventh day is a Sabbath. Again, he reiterates of Yahuah your Elohim, you do not do any work. You nor your son, nor your father, nor your male servant, nor your female servant, nor your cattle, nor your stranger who is within your gates. Okay, so now, verse 11, for in 6 days Yahuah made the heavens and the earth, the sea, and all that is in them, and rested the seventh day. Therefore Yahuah baraked is the actual correct word instead of blessed. It should be baraked the seventh day and set it apart. Now, he's pretty much, Masha's pretty much taking from Genesis 2:2 here. Because literally, Yahuah rested on the seventh day after he made the earth in 6 days. So literally, all Masha's doing is taking from Genesis 2:2 and quoting it here. And then you have verse 12. It says, honor or respect your dad and your mom, so that your days are prolonged upon the soil which Yahuah your Elohim is giving you. Okay, that seems pretty easy, you know. You give honor to your dad and your mom, you respect them, you do what they tell you to do, as long as it doesn't break Yahuah's commandments, of course. But, you know, that doesn't seem like a burdensome. It doesn't really seem like a burden to honor your dad and your mom. Then verse 13 says, you do not murder. Doesn't really seem like a burden, you know, to keep yourself from doing evil, like killing someone, you know, committing genocide. That doesn't seem like a burden to keep yourself from murdering someone. Verse 14, you do not commit adultery. Okay, so, you know, and, you know, I always, you know, like to joke around because, you know, when people say the law is a burden, well, is it a burden for your spouse not to cheat on you? I mean, with all respect, you know, is this a burden? You know, verse 15, you do not steal. Is that a burden to not steal? Would you want someone stealing from you because you think the law is a burden? You do not bear false witness against your neighbor. Now, is this a burden for someone not to bear false witness against you, or vice versa, to not bear false witness and not to lie about your neighbor, vice versa? I don't think that's a burden. Then verse 17 says, you do not covet your neighbor's house, you do not covet your neighbor's wife, nor his male servant, nor his female servant, nor his ox, nor his donkey, or whatever belongs to your neighbor. Now, pretty much this is just saying, do not be envious or jealous of your neighbor to want what he has. So that doesn't seem like a burden. And all the people saw the thunders and lightning and flashes, the voice of the shofar and the mountain smoking, and the people saw it, they trembled and stood at distance. And so, to go forward on in this chapter, this will just be talking that they accepted to do what Yahuah commanded to do, but we want to stay on track here, stay on topic. So Exodus chapter 20, just to recap it, is about the giving of the top 10 of the commandments, the first 10 that Yahuah gave to Yashrael, and now we're gonna go into the book of Numbers and go into some of the other commandments that are in the law of Yahuah that have not been stated yet up to this point. So we are going to go first to Numbers chapter 5. And let's see here. And start from verse 1. And Yahuah spoke to Masha, saying, command the children of Yashrael to send out of the camp every leper and everyone who has a discharge and everyone who has become defiled for a being. So this is pretty much like a law for your health. So not for leprosy to spread, pretty much. Send out both male and female, send them outside the camp so that they do not defile their camps in the midst which I dwell. And children of Yashrael did so to send them outside the camp as Yahuah had spoken to Masha, so the children of Yashrael did. All right, and let's see if there's anything else. We also have the restitution. Just want to see what I want to get into. Yeah, I might as well just finish the rest of the chapter. It's not much. And we are going to start next in this next portion of the chapter, confession and restitution. Yahuah spoke to Masha, saying, speak to the children of Yashrael, when a man or a woman commits any transgression, when that man commits a trespass against Yahuah, and that being is guilty, Then they shall confess their transgression which they have done, and he shall restore his guilt in its principal plus 1/5 of it, and give it to whom he has been guilty. But if the man has no relative to restore the guilt to it, the guilt which is restored goes to Yahuah for the priest, in addition to the ram of the atonement in which the atonement is made for him. And every contribution of the set-apart gifts of the children of Yashrael, which they bring to the priest, becomes his. And every man's set-apart gifts becomes his. Whatever any man gives priest to the priest becomes his. So that's just talking about restitution. If they steal from someone, what they must give to the Levite. Now, if we go to the next part, which is the last part of this chapter, a test for adultery. And Yahuah spoke to Masha, saying, speak to the children of Yashrael and say to them, when any man's wife turns aside and has committed a trespass against him, and a man has intercourse with her, and it is hidden from the eyes of her husband, and it is concealed that she has defiled herself, and there was no witness against her, nor was she caught, and a spirit of jealousy comes upon him, and he becomes jealous of his wife who has defiled herself, or a spirit of jealousy comes upon him and becomes jealous of his wife, although she has not defiled herself, then the man shall bring his wife to the priest, and he shall bring the offering for her 1/10 of an ephah of barley flour. He is not to pour oil on it or put frankincense on it, because it's a grain offering of jealousy, an offering for remembering, for bringing crookedness to remembrance. And the priest shall bring her near and shall make her stand before Yahuah, and the priest shall set apart water in an earthen vessel, and take some of the dust that is on the floor of the dwelling place and put into the water. And the priest shall make the woman stand before Yahuah, and shall uncover the woman's head, and put the covering for remembering in her hands, which is the grain offering of jealousy, while the priest holds in the hand a bitter water that brings a curse. And the priest shall make her swear, and shall say to the woman, if no man has lain with you, and you have not turned aside to uncleanness under your husband's authority, be free from this bitter water that brings a curse. But if you have turned aside under your husband's authority, and if you have defiled yourself, and some man other than your husband has lain with you, then the priest shall make the woman swear with the oath of the curse, and he shall say to the woman, Yahuah, make a curse and an oath among your people when Yahuah makes your thigh waste away and your belly swell. And the priest shall write then curses in a book, and shall wipe them off into the bitter water, and shall make the woman drink the bitter water that brings a curse, and make the water that brings a curse shall enter her to become bitter. And the priest shall take the grain offering of jealousy from the woman's hand, and shall wave the offering before Yahuah, and shall bring it to the slaughtering place. And the priest shall take a hand filled with the offering as its remembrance offering, and burn it on the slaughtering place, and afterward make the woman drink the water. And when he has made her drink the water, then it shall be, if she has defiled herself and has committed a trespass against her husband, the water that brings the curse shall enter her and become bitter, and her belly shall swell, and her thighs shall waste away, and the woman shall become a curse among her people. But if the woman has not defiled herself and is clean, then she shall be clear and shall conceive children. And we're starting to close out for this portion, so I'm just going to read the next couple of verses. We're going to have to start a new session. This is the law of jealousy when a woman turns aside under her husband's authority and defiles herself, or when a spirit of jealousy comes onto a man, and he becomes jealous of his wife, and he shall make the woman stand before Yahuah, and the priest shall do to her all this law, and the man shall be clear from crookedness, the woman bear her crookedness. So basically, it's what the repercussions of adultery. So please stay tuned, everyone.
There's two things that I want to bring out.
Yeah, sure. We got about 9 minutes left, so go ahead.
Okay, one of them is the head covering he removes from the woman's head. I don't believe you brought that out. That he does take the head covering off her head. That means that the woman was already wearing a head covering, and the second thing I want to bring out is the fact that he doesn't, there isn't something that happens to the man, which I know millions of women will be upset that why is he just picking on the woman? What happens to the man? And we know that the man is under Yahusha's authority directly, and he would be punished by Yahusha. I just wanted to bring that out, and maybe you could elaborate on that some.
Yeah, yeah. What you're referring to is 1 Corinthians 11 with being under the man's authority, and Paul is actually just quoting from Numbers 5 that he's talking about the whole headship and well, 1 Corinthians 11, my bad, is actually talking about the head covering of the woman, that she's to wear a head covering because of the Malachim and also because the husband is her covering, as Messiah is the covering of the assembly. So, and also that 1 Corinthians 11 can even point back to Genesis 6:4 and why it's important in modern day for women to wear head coverings, because the Malachim were corrupted and lusted after women. And so it's for their protection also, not just for the man's authority, but it's also for the woman's protection. So we're going to continue this study in about 6 minutes, 7 minutes. We'll be coming back. We will be starting off at Numbers 10, and we'll be going on from Numbers 10. So just stay tuned, guys, and we're going to be coming with part 2 of this study. Is the law of Yahuah a heavy yoke or burden? Stay tuned, guys. We'll be right back.